Hello, welcome back to Buckle Up. My name's Jasper. Are you in the market for a simple, sensible family hatchback that won't cost you the earth to run? Look no further than this, the Toyota Corolla Hybrid. So this is the latest Toyota Corolla, and I think it's fair to say this is probably the best looking one that Toyota have rustled up. And I think that's the case because, well, look at the front of it. This is really nice. This is sleek, it's smooth. I really like this line here where your headlamp clusters come across. You've got nice LED daytime running lights down here, and all models of this car come with LED headlamps, which is really nice to see. On this top spec one, these are actually adaptive and those headlamp beams are brilliant. Up at the front, I've got my blue Toyota badge because of course this is a hybrid. And then look at this grille, some nice lattice work, some excellent bits of chrome work and a load of gloss black plastic. So this looks quite mean. It looks purposeful. I like it. Around at the side, I've got some lovely 18-inch wheels with a nice diamond cut front to them. This is the top spec XL, and these are the largest alloys you can get on this car, and I think they do look rather excellent. Base trims come with 16 inches, and they do look good, and you will get better fuel economy with those as well. At the side, I've got some lovely gloss black mirror caps, and then I've got a panoramic sunroof to make use of this excellent British weather. I've got keyless entry and go, and it's just a very sleek and sensible side profile. From your second trim up, you get tinted rear windows, and I like this blacked in B-pillar too. You've got a nice piece of chrome work across the top of your windows, and then a very sensible looking hatchback style profile at the back. Over on this rear quarter panel on the other side, I've got my fuel flap, but because Toyota seem to live in the 1980s, you do have to pull a little cable in the driver's footwell to actually open that, which does irritate me a little bit. Around at the back, you've got some excellent sleek rear tail lights, which do marry up very nicely with the front ones. And then the back of the car is actually kind of weirdly curved, I think, but it does certainly make it a little bit more aerodynamic. You've got a rear bumper that sticks out quite far from where your boot lid goes, and then down here I've got some nice gloss black plastic and again some lovely little silver accents similar to the front. The whole styling on this car is just very tasteful, and it just works really well. I've got a weirdly recessed Toyota badge here, and looking at this, you'd kind of go, oh, maybe my boot opener is there. No, that's just your reversing camera, which is standard on all trims, as are front and rear parking sensors with an auto brake function, so you can't crash into things. But my boot opener is just down here. There's also a button to lock and unlock the car, which is very handy. My boot lid also says Corolla on it over here, and then I've got my typical Toyota HEV badge. If I open this boot, you'll see it opens nice and wide. I've got a very substantial parcel shelf, and I can actually hook my boot floor up onto a little loop on the underside of that. Toyota just think about these things very well. The boot in this is way better than the boot in the Prius, in terms of this doesn't hit you in the face every time you try and put something in it. Underneath the boot floor, you've got your 12-volt battery, and then you've got some foam that takes up some of the void in there. You've got a first aid kit, some tyre repair gubbins, and yeah, there's a little bit of space underneath that boot floor. Now, because this has got two different engine sizes available, you've got a 1.8 and a 2 litre, this is the 2 litre, and that means I get a smaller boot. The 1.8 litre car, because there's less hybrid stuff to shove this way, comes with 363 litres back here, but this only comes with 313. Which, to be honest, isn't really good enough in this kind of segment. This boot is weirdly shallow. Yes, you've got no load lip, but there isn't actually that much space underneath it. And yeah, you've got a deep pocket on either side, but it's just not quite as good a space back here as it could be. If you did go for the Toyota Corolla Sports Touring, the estate car, you get over 600 litres, which is much more like it. Now, the boot is relatively practical. You've got a hook on both sides up here. You do have some tie-down points hidden down there, and then obviously those deep pockets at either side. You do have a single lamp over here, but other than that, that's kind of it. Thankfully though, if you do fold your rear seats down, your luggage space does dramatically increase, and because of this boot floor being designed well, it's a nice flat load space if you do so. When it comes to the back seats, the Corolla hatch is not as good as its estate sibling. And that is because I'm a little bit limited for space back here. So I am only 173 centimetres tall, and yet if I sit bolt upright, my hair does actually brush this ceiling. Popping this headrest up, I am relatively comfortable, but I'm very conscious that if I were, say, 182 centimetres tall, I would actually have to slouch to sit back here. Similarly, this chunky front seat is in my driver's position, and I do have knee room here. However, I'm also very conscious that if the driver had longer legs than I do, which is not particularly difficult, I would struggle to then fit back here particularly comfortably. The chunky seats also do mean that if they're lower, you don't have anywhere to put your feet. Thankfully, there isn't much of a hump in the middle of the floor, and whilst this middle seat is slightly higher, it's not significantly so, so 3 shorter people should be okay back here. I must say, I do really like the seat material. It's a nice faux leather with some nice perforated sections, some contrast stitching. The foam that's underneath them is nice and firm, so it's actually pretty comfortable. I'm just very conscious that space could be a limiting factor, and obviously this lovely glass panoramic sunroof is probably partially to blame there. In terms of practicality, it is actually pretty decent. My trusty reusable bottle of water has a nice slot in the door card up here at elbow height. I've got a nice squidgy armrest, and yes, whilst the plastic up here is more on the functional side as opposed to the luxurious side, it is actually, you know, nicely moulded. There's a texture on it, so it doesn't feel horrendously cheap. Similarly, I've got storage pockets in the backs of both of these front seats. I've got some climate vents down here with an adjustable airflow, but no third zone, unfortunately. And then right down at the bottom, I've got a pair of USB Type-C ports for charging devices. I've also got a lovely little armrest, which has 2 cup holders in it. They aren't particularly tight though, so anything that's in here that's more metallic will rattle around. The ISOFIX situation is both good and bad news. Good news, both of these outer seats have it. Bad news, the covers are removable, so you will lose these. However, I must say the back seats, whilst being a little bit tight for space, are at least very comfortable. Hop into the front seats and it is a very, very nice cabin. Now, I will say it's a little bit dull in some areas. This is quite a lot of black. But at least there are some different materials and textures to kind of make it a little bit different in some areas. I've got a faux leather steering wheel, but I've got leather on my seats, and because this is the top spec XL, I've actually got sports style bucket type seats in the front. These are very comfortable, but they do hug you quite tightly, so if you are of a larger frame, that's maybe something to test out before you go and buy one of these cars. Seating position is really good, and view forwards and to the sides is also really good. When it comes to practicality, the cabin is pretty well thought out, with the small exception of the door bins, because it's actually quite difficult to get a reusable bottle of water in and out of them. Thankfully, you do have 2 cup holders in the centre here, which are much more easy to access, and I've got a wireless Qi charger below my infotainment stack, and look at this, hallelujah! Proper climate controls. Toyota know how consumers feel. One thing that is really good across all trims of the Corolla is you get a pretty decent infotainment setup. So I've got a large 12.3-inch digital driver's cluster, and then I've got a 10.5-inch infotainment touchscreen up in the centre. This is very easy to use. The built-in system is nice and snappy. The menus are pretty sensible, but let's face it, you're going to use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, both of which are fitted and both of which are just better than anything most manufacturers can come up with. So Apple CarPlay on here works flawlessly. It's wireless and it swipes through nicely. It's just a much more user-friendly experience than most in-car systems. This top spec has got a nice JBL stereo system, which does sound pretty decent, and then everything else is just very sensible, sturdy, and just works. So all trims including the base model, come with front heated seats, which I think is excellent value. You've got proper switches for those down here. You've obviously got your aforementioned nice physical climate controls, dual zone again, and then I've got my chunky lever for my gearbox down here. I've got a drive mode selector and EV button here, also hold electronic parking brake, and I've got some storage under this armrest with a couple of USB Type-C ports for charging devices, if you don't want to use your Qi charging pad up there. The glove box is decent enough. It's a reasonable size. It's damped but not felt lined. The door pockets are not felt lined, but they are reasonable, although obviously probably don't want to put a bottle of water in those because you might struggle to get it out. And then I've got buttons everywhere. It's just so refreshing to have proper physical switchgear in a car. Material quality all round is pretty good. I like some elements of the design that do make it stand out a little bit, like this diagonal stitching across the dashboard. And then also worth noting, on this top spec, I've got a nice head-up display. Finally, on the adjustment front, the driver and passenger seat are both height adjustable, they are manual, and the steering column has got plenty of adjustment for both reach and rake, so it should be pretty easy to find yourself a nice, comfortable driving position. Speaking of, let's go and do that. Right, we know that the Corolla is a very sensible family car. Does it drive like one? Yeah, pretty much. This has Toyota's ever-famous eCVT drivetrain, and in this case, what I've got the 2-litre engine option. All 4 trim levels of the Corolla can be bought with either the 1.8-litre or the 2-litre hybrid system. This case, 2-litre hybrid system, that is a 4-cylinder, normally aspirated petrol engine mated to Toyota's fantastically clever planetary gearbox setup with 2 electric motors and a battery pack. Those 3 drivetrain components shuffle power about to basically drive you along in an incredibly efficient manner. The 2-litre system in this has got a total power output of 178 PS and a total torque output of 190 Newton meters. Both of those are pretty respectable figures, and it certainly feels fast enough. This one will do 0 to 62 miles an hour in 7.4 seconds. If you do go for the 1.8-litre system, your power does drop quite significantly. You only get 138 PS total, and your 0 to 62 time does increase towards 10 seconds. What I would say is that, according to WLTP figures, fuel efficiency for both is broadly quite similar. The 2-litre is slightly down, but essentially though, in the real world, because the 2-litre system has more power, it doesn't feel like you need to work it as hard, so you should actually really see very, very similar fuel efficiency because you won't be pushing the 2-litre system as hard as you'd have to push the 1.8. The powertrain is fantastically clever and it is really fuel efficient, so it will just sit away in the background and sip petrol. That's the only slight negative about the eCVT system, and that is if you really plant your foot, your revs will climb to a number and then they'll basically just sit there even as you gather speed. Now that is basically the case in any CVT style vehicle, because you try and run the engine at its most efficient or most powerful rev range whilst continuously adjusting the drive ratio of the transmission. So it's not really a surprise, it's just something to be aware of. However, in basically any normal driving circumstance, you aren't matting your foot, so what you actually get in the real world is quite a nice, relaxing, very quiet driving experience. This power plant has certainly got enough poke that even if you are just briefly putting your foot down a little bit, yes, you get a little bit more noise, but not excessively so. One massive area that Toyota put some thought into with this generation of Corolla was the design on the outside, and the other thing that they put a lot of thought into were the driving dynamics. And whilst this is absolutely no kind of performance car, I am actually able to say that it's a very pleasant vehicle to drive. It grips quite nicely, the turn-in is quite good, and yes, whilst the steering doesn't offer you loads of feedback, it certainly gives you enough, and I've genuinely enjoyed driving this for the week that I've had it. Essentially, it just feels incredibly competent, well sorted and very planted on the road. It's also very easy to position, your visibility all the way round with the small exception of the chunky A-pillars is very good, and you've got the full parking sensors and a reversing camera, which admittedly does look like something out of like 2007 because it is quite literally a potato. You can park it very easily. The other thing that this is really good at is just any kind of driving. This has got a really good array of Toyota's intelligent driver safety systems, so it's got speed limit recognition, obviously, it's got good lane keeping assist, blind spot monitoring, and the great thing is that all of those systems are standard across all models of the Corolla, whichever trim level you go for. The adaptive cruise control is really good. It's got traffic jam assist, and the auto steer function to keep you centered in a lane is excellent. Being a Toyota, this will obviously be ridiculously reliable, and that's because the technology underneath it is very well proven, it's very well engineered. It's assembled here in the UK, so you can be a little bit smug about supporting British manufacturing if you buy one of these. And the amazing thing that Toyota do is obviously they back this up with a 10-year warranty as long as you service with them on a 12-monthly basis. So what isn't there to like about the potential of owning this? Fuel economy should be good as well. This hybrid system is very efficient. I've not been trying to get good fuel economy, and I've still averaged 45 miles to the gallon in the week that I've had it, which has been a mixture of country driving where there's quite a lot of acceleration and braking, as well as some faster dual carriageway stuff and some city driving, and it's coped with all of that flawlessly. I think realistically most people would see at least 50 miles to the gallon in normal use cases. My driving circumstances are particularly harsh and on particularly poor roads for getting good fuel economy, so I really don't think you'll struggle to see 50 at least in the real world. WLTP is 61 for this trim level, and I guess if you were very gentle, you might see 60 miles to the gallon, but I mean anything that's getting north of 50 realistically in this segment is excellent, quite frankly. This central screen is great, really clear, very easy to use. Apple CarPlay is almost comically big on it because of the aspect ratio. I would maybe prefer it if it was a little bit more letterboxed like the one in the Prius. The digital drivers cluster is very good, easy to read. There is a lot of information on it though, so I'd probably change the design, which you can do. You can optimize this to display information you want, but you can kind of tone that down a little bit. Toyota are really good at giving you a lot of information, but not always in the clearest sense. And the fact that you've got to go through fiddly menus on here to deactivate stuff like speed limit warning or lane keep assist is a little bit irritating. The other thing that this has as well is the paddles, which to be honest, I don't really think are worth using. It's an eCVT, so all of the gears are very much simulated and it doesn't really override the behaviour of the gearbox at all. Pricing is pretty reasonable, I'd say. The range starts from just over £30,000. Each trim level will give you a couple of grand in terms of uplift-ish. So the 1.8 litre of this is about 36,500. If you go for the 2 litre engine, it's about an 1,800 quid uplift for each trim level. So this one, as tested, is about £38,500, which I think is actually quite good value for money, all things considered, especially when you look at low running costs, excellent reliability, pretty impressive kit, and just a really nice, sensible and safe and secure driving experience. It just feels very solid and dependable, and if you want a reliable family hatchback, this is an excellent choice. Well, to sum it up, yes, the Corolla Hybrid would make an excellent family hatchback. Obviously, you've got a decent amount of kit, it drives well enough, but critically, it will not cost you the earth to run because of how good the powertrain is and how reliable Toyota's engineering is. So yes, it is absolutely a recommendation from me. If you have enjoyed the video, please do let me know by liking, commenting and subscribing. Make sure you hit the notification bell as well so you don't miss one of our uploads. If you'd like to support the channel, there are a few different ways you can do that. You can become a channel member right here on YouTube, you can follow all of our social media, which are linked in the video description, or you can buy some channel merchandise, again linked in the video description. That is everything, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!